interruption, Jack.
Do you want a seat down, by the way?
No, I'm staying.
So I wanted a killer keynote, so I approached some pretty inappropriate people, and I'm kind of glad that they're not jumping at the bit to speak for free for me. I had quotes of like $100,000 from one person to fly in. The other one, the answer was, how much is it going to be? And as this event developed over the last 3 months, I knew the person that I wanted to finish this day. He probably has the least amount of information about him on the website, on the Eventbrite link, and that's really not an accident. I would like you all to meet Gary. Come on up, mate.
Hi and welcome.
You've got 10 minutes. Knock it out of the park.
Well, unfortunately, for my £37 parking, he's getting 12 minutes and I'm not leaving. We've had a long day and we've heard from some real inspirational people, and I've been touched by a lot of your stories. I'm actually going to talk about negatives of my life and what's happened to me, but actually how Facebook is actually so good, and the positives that have come from my story. Okay? I was a Royal Engineer from South London. I served in the army for 10 years and my career was cut short. I was medically discharged in 2010. I am an Afghanistan veteran. I was medically discharged in 2010 with severe neck and spinal problems and undiagnosed mental health issues. PTSD was a dirty word in the army in 2010. It was never mentioned. I was just told I was depressed and I was anxious. I couldn't get rehoused, unfortunately, in South London, so I ended up just outside Portsmouth. And of course, if you take someone out of the job that he loves so much, and a family and kids that knew nothing but the military, and place them in an area where they have not got friends or family or support network, what do you think happened? It just got worse. And over 5 years, between 2010 and 2015, I slowly turned into a recluse. I went to 3 different mental health experts in those 5 years. I didn't just sit at home feeling sorry for myself. I tried to do something about it. All 3 mental health practitioners said, we are not trained or funded to deal with someone from the army. But they were so uneducated in that period that they couldn't even tell me where I was meant to go. In 2015, things were taking a turn to the worst. My mental health was at its lowest ebb, and something else started to go on my body, and it started affecting my right leg. I started to have a breakdown. I felt lost, I was uneducated, I felt like no one cared. I pushed my family away, I pushed my friends away. I was so much of a recluse I didn't even have a mobile phone or an email, because who wants to speak to me? For the first time in 20 odd years, my wife said to me, Gary, I can't cope, and you're affecting the children. You cannot come home until you've had some mental health support and some respite care and help with your physical injuries. See, some might think that's quite cold, but my wife was pushing the issue. She honestly thought, with the amount of money that gets raised for military charities, that there'd be somewhere for me to go. And little did she know. I went to the hospital, presented myself as homeless. I couldn't pick up my bag. I was hobbling. I was a danger to myself, and I was a danger to other people. And they gave me 1 pill and tried to discharge me at 2 o'clock in the morning. I refused to move. Eventually, to cut a long story short, After several days of begging for assistance, I was forcibly removed by the hospital, put in a wheelchair, wheeled to the bus stop and left there in my pyjamas, sobbing. I couldn't even pick up my own bag. You might think, how has it come for a hospital in England in this day and age to do that to a war veteran? But the reality is, they couldn't do nothing else with me. I was holding up a bed. I couldn't get mental health because I hadn't been sectioned by the police. And the reality was, there was nowhere to send me. So they did what they did. Luckily for me, after about 45 minutes of crying by myself, a stranger stopped and asked me, can they do anything to help me? They got in contact with my wife, and my wife came and picked me up immediately. Extremely saddened that it had come to that. Within 12 hours, I was back in the same hospital on a drip because I picked up a severe infection in my legs in hospital called cellulitis. They wondered why I was slightly anxious and slightly nervous and didn't want to be there. I had a full mental breakdown after that point. I couldn't cope. I felt like society didn't want me, the military didn't want me, my family and friends didn't want me. But the truth of it is, it was my mental health that was mainly the problem. In the late summer of 2015, I had a heart attack through stress. In December 2015, I tried to take my own life in a very, very serious way. I took nearly 15,000 milligrams of tablets. I took everything I had in the house. I was ready to die and I wanted to die. And the truth of it was the greatest sign of love I could show my family was to end them with me. I now know that was wrong, and it would have actually screwed them up for the rest of their lives. But mental health eats away at you. And I had the darkness. I could only see darkness, not the good, not the positives in my life. The fact that I've got a wife and children and a home, where so many veterans haven't even got that. I could only focus on the bad. In March 2016, I sat indoors, still with no phone, no email, contemplating doing it again. The only reason I lived was because I do not drink. And they let that slip at the hospital, so I'd actually stashed some drink away. I was going to go for it properly. My wife walks in with an iPhone, and I was like, Christ, I don't know how to operate a normal phone, let alone an iPhone. And I sat there and looked at it for about 3 days, very suspicious of this device in my house. And I hate to talk about the competitor, but I must briefly. It reminds me of shitter. And I saw Stephen Fry come on the telly, and he was talking about chitter and how it helped his mental health. So I shouted up to my son, hey, don't get down here. Set your dad up an email. I have not got a clue. So my son sent me up an email, and I joined Twitter. And I'd never used it before. I didn't even understand what it was. What the hell is this? Is it a text message? Is even anyone going to read it? I don't even know what I'm doing. But the very first message changed my life forever. And it's in turn changed hundreds, if not thousands, of others. My first tweet said, I've never felt so alone since I left the army. No picture, nothing, no more than that. 10, 20, 30. The thing was pinging, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? There's 30 people that want to talk to me. There's 30 people that are interested in my life. You know, this was a new feeling to me that a complete stranger would care about me when, you know, the people that I work with didn't once upon a time. And over 2 weeks, it came clear to me that there are many Gary Weavings, and some a lot worse off than me, that haven't got the support that I've got. And I started talking to people about their experiences, my experiences, their suicides, their losing their son, their wife. And I started to realise, wow, I really feel good. This feels good. You know, this feels good getting it off my back. This feels good comparing my story with theirs. And I thought, well, I could actually be good at this. So I started sending out powerful picture messages. What if it was your son? Stuff like that. Stuff that it would make you stop and think. At week 6, I had 7,000 Twitter followers. And Westminster got in contact with me. I thought it was a joke. Hello, Mr. Weaving, this is Westminster. We've been watching your Twitter account. We'd like you to come to Westminster to tell us about what's been going on. So, and I was like, is this a wind-up? Come on, John. No, this is real, Mr. Weaving, and you are definitely invited. So I went. And I spent an hour and a half talking to the people from the Armed Forces Covenant and a wonderful MP called Anne-Marie Trevelyan. And she showed me the first sign of actual compassion and self-worth. And weirdly, I sort of developed quite a good relationship with her. And the moment I came back from Westminster, people come to me and said, why are you not on Facebook? It's so much better than shitter. And I said, to be honest, I said, I don't understand it. I said, I used it years ago, because I thought I'd get a bird. Then I got a bird, and then thought I'd best not use that anymore. And I didn't understand it. I didn't want people to think I'm being a victim. I didn't want people thinking, you know, I'm trying to get famous, or poor Gary, or bless, you know. And they said, but you're so good at this, and your attitude of selfless commitment to others is infectious, will help you. And I was like, all right, we'll give it a go. So I went over to Facebook. Christ, it had changed, you know. And they started to help me, and I started to buddy people. And whether they were 70, whether they were 21, whether it was a wife, whether it was whoever, you know, not trying to counsel, not trying to treat, but just being there, sharing experiences, talking about football, finding out information, looking for stuff online, your doctor's surgeries there, your civic offices, just doing anything I could do to break up the isolation and loneliness. And back then, I never knew anyone else that was doing this of this sort on Facebook. And it caught on very quickly, and people are like, this is amazing. I've got a friend who could do with a buddy. I've got my dad could do with a buddy. And in the end, I was doing so many, I had to start taking on other people. So I started to take on ex-Army Welfare Service specialists, people that with experience in this. And they became buddies. And then we got more, and then we got more. And then the more we listen to these people, and the more that we talk to them, and the more we get ingrained ourselves into their lives, we started to realise that we have literally got 70-year-old war veterans, decorated veterans, sat in the dark with no electric. So I started selling a wristband that I haven't got on today. And, you know, I could only give them 20 quid, 30 quid to go and put some electric on. But when you've got nothing, and you're isolated, and you're lonely, and you're depressed, and you think no one cares about you, for someone to give you a bit of electric money speaks absolute wonders. And then people came to me and said, you must be a charity. You're going to be so good at this. I said, no, I'm not, I don't want to be a charity. No one even knew my face, because I put 5 stone on through the drugs that I was taking. I used to tick, I used to sweat. I was so embarrassed of me, I didn't want anyone to ever see who I was. And that lasted for some time on Facebook, because I've had my own demons to sort out. I've had my own rehabilitation and my own care to sort out. In the end, I had a High Court judge come to me and said, I've been watching you for some time, and the way you are and the way your team work with people, I've never seen it before. Completely a new approach. You must be a charity. So we applied for charity registration, didn't think we were going to get it because there's been some bad news about some military charities, and there's been people taking advantage of the fact that the public generate generously to military charities. And we applied, and after 5 months, and it can be up to 2 or 3 years to get an application, it takes that long. But after 5 months, I became aware that the Prime Minister's Secretary had written to the Commission on his behalf about me. We were given it on Monday morning. Just shows it's who you know. We're unlike many other charities. We give it all away. Last year, I gave 90% of everything that was taken into my charity to the people it was meant for, the veteran community. Out of 45 people that work for me, or volunteer as you could say, no one has ever been paid, barely an expense between them. I run this charity from under my stairs for nearly 3 years. I can't even stand up under my stairs, so it's been quite a job, believe you me. I'm now on the highest veteran mental health board that sits in the country, amongst some of the giants in our world. So my selfless attitude has also been recognised at that level. And that's what excites me, because I can make a difference there. I thought they were only going to listen to me once, so I got the big guns out in front of all these charities, and I said it exactly as it is, because I thought I'm going to have to get it out what I can before I get escorted off. I've got a habit of getting removed from the industry. And what made me laugh? What made me laugh? It wasn't made me laugh. The head of NHS England came over to me afterwards and said, Mr. Weaving, I've never heard a veteran speak about veteran mental health and care the way you have. Completely refreshing, completely different take on it. Prevention, not cure. That's where we've gone wrong. We haven't looked after the basics. We've let these problems of mental health issues and isolation and loneliness snowball and snowball and snowball until it becomes an issue, where we need to take a step back and spend £1 now to save a tenner in the future. Some people said, were you bothered when everyone copied your idea on Facebook? And I said, no, not really, unless I was in a really bitchy mood. Because the reality is, there's less people now isolated, that aren't isolated and lonely. It's as simple as that. Then I had another idea, because I come up with some loads of ideas. I'm full of ideas, just need the money to back them up. I went to the council and I said, can I have some woodland please? Because veterans talking to veterans is sometimes the best therapy they can have. And I'd like to put on a camp, because all of these veterans that disappear because they can't cope, go to the places they know. Go back to the things they like to do, they were trained to do. So I wanted some land to open a PTSD respite camp for veterans. Portsmouth Council said, unfortunately, we haven't got much land. And no problem, I appreciate the fault. You can have an 1800s Napoleonic fort though. And I was like, wow, 0 to 10 in, you know. And I haven't got it all, it's not yet. And so we have opened, and we've only just opened it, the country's truly unique respite camp for veterans with PTSD. They can ring me up from anywhere in the country and tell me, Gary, I need to come now. and I would say, grab your clothes and your toothbrush, mate, that's all you need. We're either coming to get you or we're putting you on transport now. They can come to me for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days to have instant access to mental health when in their own communities they're getting let down. I can't promise any of you that they will not go away from there and take their own lives because you do what you want to do. I can promise you though that we're going to try our absolute best to unwind them 10 or 20%. Just give them enough courage and enough vision to keep going forward. Link them into my charity and the other services that we offer, but also signpost them on to the relevant ones. I've got to give it to Facebook. I applaud Facebook. Last year was a very tragic year for our community because we had 85 families come forward on Facebook and say, my husband killed himself or my wife killed herself. So now, thanks to Facebook, because it's a tool for people to talk to each other, we've now got the beginnings of statistics to help us. The problem we've got, we've got some of the best charities in the world, but they're backlogged trying to get in to get treatment, or realising the treatment isn't suitable and doing it when they come out. So for us, it's about prevention, not cure. They can come to me and unwind and have some help with like-minded people that have been there, not the top telling them what they need, the same level offering a hand. If they have to come back in 7 or 8 weeks and do it all again, they're good. Port Cumberland will become their special safe place. Unfortunately, currently, I've paid for Fort Cumberland £18,000 out of my own pocket because we are struggling to get a large military charity to step forward and help us, which is an awful shame. But I asked myself, getting in debt for £18,000, if we save one life this year, will it be worth it? And I said, yeah, and I'll go without for them, because I promised the world I would dedicate my life to these people, to give them a voice, to make sure they weren't the ones that are left at the bus stop, to make sure they're not the ones with no electric. And that is what I'm going to do. And money doesn't come into it, it comes into care. And I actually believe without Facebook and some of these groups, these self-help groups, they're not all great, but most of them, I think there'd be more deaths and less people, there'd be even less families next year going without. So it's working, Facebook. It needs to be tuned, and it's an evolving machine. And I hope they'll listen to the likes of people like me and you to make sure that they get it to what it needs to be. But this is a revolution. This is a mental health revolution, and it is happening in our own front rooms. That's the glory of it. So those that can't now can. That's what I preach. Hope's a funny thing. If you've got no hope, life gets very pointless. But to get hope, you've got to have goals. You set too big a goals, you will fail, and then you will slip back down to no hope. So I tell people, take small steps, little steps. If you drink too much, drink 2 pints less. If you eat too much, have 1 round. If you're getting up too late, get up at Jeremy Cole time. Because it's about small steps in the right direction. Because when you screw up again, and you will, because you're human, the people around you can see that you've made such effort, they will have more allowances of patience. So just take small steps in the right direction. It is okay to say. Unfortunately, the British war veterans, man, women, young and old, they're proud people. And 85 suicides in 1 year that we know about is not good enough. Not with the amount of money and the expertise that this country has got. So I'd like to say thank you for listening to me today. I've skipped out a lot I'll be quite honest, because I can see him walking up and down wearing the carpet out. I wanted to give you a chance to ask the odd question. I hope I've been...
the questions. I at the beginning 3 months ago had so many ideas. Through David, I was thinking about having a military panel for veterans. I'm biased, I'm an army brat. My dad is in the audience, he was in the Royal Engineers. I spoke to Gary, I said, can I have 10 minutes now? And 10 minutes later I said, I don't need a panel, I'll just get Gary there. He didn't even know he was going to be speaking at the end. You said something on that very first call, that your version of success was when someone who'd come to you for help.
Yeah.
Said what?
Well, when we know we're succeeding, is the people that have come to us for help and we've worked with, they're all different, every case is different. I think you'll all find, skip away from the fact they're military. Every case that comes to you, the person will be different. There is no point trying to sort of blanket treat people. They are individuals. And success to us was when those individuals, whether it was a month, a year or 2 years, then turn around to be helpers. That's when you know you've worked and you've empowered someone enough to give them the confidence that, okay, PTSD is a part of their life. I will not wear a PTSD t-shirt for the rest of my life, but it will always be in my back pocket. I doubt I will ever forget some of my experiences and problems I had in the army, ever. But I signed the line. You do the time. And at the end of the day, some of them are coming out now, are only youngsters still. I've been like this since I was 29. I can't fall apart every time something else goes on me. I have to accept it. I can't change the past. I can only process it and change my future.
What he's also missing out is, how many members have you got in the group?
It's about 35,000 now.
The other thing that, this is an example of peer-to-peer support, but when some of the other panels, and Ed his community is completely open. What amazes me about Gary is it's not just for veterans, it's for their families, it's for their kids. And when he first started, he got some pushback from squaddies saying, why are you letting our families in? And he said, this isn't your problem, this is kind of everyone's involved in this. He's been the best keynote I've heard for bloody years, so I'd just like to take this opportunity. Can we please give him
and this year we are going to lose less. We are not going to have 85 dead veterans at the end of this year, because we're all going to get together, we're going to stand by our forces, stand by the people that have given their lives so you can have a safe one, and say it's not good enough. But our forces deserve to be housed, deserve to be cared for, and deserve to get the best mental health practice there is in the country. Thank you very much for listening.